Ibrahim Traoré's powerful message to the world. In the shifting sands of African politics, few names have emerged with as much intensity, passion, and resonance as Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the young leader of Burkina Faso, who has captured both the imagination of his people and the attention of the global stage. His rise to power at only 34 years old marked not just a political change within his nation, but also a symbolic rebirth of the broader struggle for African sovereignty, dignity, and independence in a world that has long been dominated by colonial legacies and neocolonial exploitation. When Traoré speaks, his words cut through the familiar political jargon and instead resound with the raw voice of a people who have endured decades of foreign manipulation, poverty, and violence. His powerful message to the world is not confined to the borders of Burkina Faso. It is a clarion call to all nations, particularly those in Africa, to reclaim their agency, to resist domination, and to pursue genuine self-determination. To understand his message, one must first trace the roots of his rise and the historic weight he carries as a young revolutionary leader. Traoré's journey into leadership was forged in the fires of Burkina Faso's long struggle against instability and exploitation. The country, historically rich in resources like gold, cotton, and fertile land, has paradoxically been ranked among the poorest nations in the world. This contradiction is no accident, but the direct result of centuries of colonial plunder followed by decades of neocolonial control that left African nations politically weak and economically dependent. When Traoré rose to power in September 2022, he did so not merely as a soldier seizing control of the state, but as a representative of a collective frustration simmering among the youth and working classes of his country. His coup against interim leader Paul-Henri Damiba was not framed as an act of ambition but as a patriotic duty, an act to defend the sovereignty of Burkina Faso and to rescue it from the cycle of insecurity and foreign dependence that had rendered it unstable. For many, his rise evoked the memory of Thomas Sankara, the iconic Burkinabe revolutionary of the 1980s who also took power in his 30s and whose assassination left a scar on the nation's consciousness. Like Sankara, Traoré has embraced the language of liberation and justice, speaking to his people with clarity and honesty rather than diplomatic evasions. The essence of Ibrahim Traoré's message to the world is built around one central theme: the fight for sovereignty. In his speeches at international summits, press conferences, and rallies, he repeatedly emphasizes that Burkina Faso, like many African countries, is tired of being treated as a colony, a pawn, or a marketplace for foreign powers. He has condemned the centuries-long extraction of Africa's wealth, pointing to the fact that nations blessed with immense natural resources remain trapped in cycles of poverty because the profits from those resources flow outward rather than benefiting local communities. This is not simply an economic critique, but a moral one. Traoré argues that Africa cannot speak of independence when it remains shackled to economic arrangements, foreign military bases, and exploitative trade agreements that reduce its people to second-class participants in the global economy. His call is not one of isolation but of dignity. He demands partnerships based on equality, respect, and mutual benefit rather than domination and exploitation. One of the most striking aspects of Traoré's rhetoric is his uncompromising stance against imperialism. He has been especially vocal about the legacy of French colonial control in West Africa, denouncing the continuing presence of French troops and the role of the CFA franc, the currency system tied to France that many argue limits true economic independence. In one of his most circulated statements, he boldly declared that Africans are not children who need guardians, and that foreign powers must leave if they do not respect the sovereignty of African nations. His words electrified audiences not only in Burkina Faso but across the continent, where citizens of Mali, Niger, Guinea, and other nations saw in Traoré a reflection of their own frustrations and aspirations. His message has inspired a renewed wave of Pan-African solidarity, with young people across the continent using his speeches as rallying cries for a new era of self-reliance and independence. At the same time, Ibrahim Traoré has framed his message in universal terms that transcend Africa. He has spoken of a world order that is unjust not only to Africans, but to all weaker nations caught in the web of exploitation by global superpowers. He condemns the hypocrisy of those who preach democracy and human rights while supporting dictatorships, fueling wars, and engaging in exploitative trade practices that harm ordinary people. By placing Burkina Faso's struggle within a global context, he elevates his message from one of national liberation to one of global justice. He speaks not only to Africans, but also to Latin Americans, Asians, and even citizens within Western nations who are disillusioned with the inequities of globalization. In this way, Traoré's message becomes a bridge, linking the historic struggles of colonized peoples with the broader quest for a fairer, more balanced international system. Another layer of his message to the world lies in his emphasis on the role of youth and collective action. As one of the youngest leaders in the world, Traoré embodies the generational shift taking place in Africa. He has repeatedly stated that Africa's future does not belong to the older elites who have often clung to power while serving foreign interests, but to the new generation that refuses to accept dependency as destiny. His rise has inspired young Africans who see in him proof that courage, conviction, and determination can change the course of history. He often reminds audiences that true liberation requires sacrifice, and that no nation can be free if it is unwilling to defend its own sovereignty. His call for Africans to take control of their destiny is not mere rhetoric. It is a demand for concrete action in fields like education, agriculture, industry, and defense. Perhaps one of the most powerful dimensions of Traoré's message is his insistence on dignity as the foundation of politics. In a world where African leaders are often seen as beholden to foreign capitals, Traoré's defiance stands out as an assertion that dignity is non-negotiable. He has refused to bow before institutions like the United Nations when he believes they act in bad faith or ignore the suffering of Africans. He has warned leaders like Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and others that Africa will not be a playground for global powers seeking resources or alliances at the expense of its people. This defiance has earned him both admiration and hostility, but it has cemented his reputation as a leader who speaks truth to power without fear. Traoré's powerful message has also been amplified by symbolism. He often appears in military fatigues rather than suits, signaling that he is not a career politician but a soldier of the people. His simplicity and humility, walking among crowds, speaking directly without scripted notes, make him relatable in ways that many leaders are not. This authenticity strengthens his message, as people can sense that his words are not crafted for international applause, but born of genuine conviction. His approach recalls the revolutionary leaders of the past, from Thomas Sankara to Patrice Lumumba, and this historical continuity gives his message greater weight.